कि जो हो चुका सो हो चुका ना, but done. You cannot rewind तो नहीं कर सकते ना for your last 10 to 12 years you are young. वो तो अब rewind नहीं हो सकता ना. Gone is gone. Alhamdulillah, kullu shay min Allah, जो भी अल्लाह ताला की तरफ से खैरियत ये ठीक ही है. Alhamdulillah. What I wanted in future, how do I see my next at least 10 years? My career in the future, not at the back. मैं देख रहा था mostly आप लोगों ने अपनी historical background दिया. That was एक वो बच्चा था, उसने याद किया हुआ था my school. तो इम्तिहान में आ गया my country, उसने कहा my country has a school called Parana and my school is this. तो ये जो है ना, तो आप you have to come with a total ingenuity. कि जी मेरा मतलब ये था कि जैसा आपने कहा कि we have so much of wealth alhamdulillah in Pakistan and KP आज भी discussion हो रही थी मिनिस्ट्री में कि with so much of wealth हम क्या कर क्या रहे हैं, बस बैठे और मतलब you know आपकी भी डीलिंग किसी ना किसी हद तक होती है. So the bottom line is it's easy to talk than to deliver. But here with this kind of education, things don't happen just like that. You know, a thing will happen if I throw it up, it will come down because of the gravity in Newton's law. But when it comes to managing things, it's an art. Although we call it a science, like what we are reading today, going through these things and this structure of this course looks like a science, like a physics, like chemistry, maths. Everything is structured, lecture number 1, 2, 3, and this lecture and that lecture. But when it comes to really managing a shop even, it's an art, that how do you manage it. So keep in your mind that whether it's politics, whether it's management of a company, there is no specific science that if you push this button, this will happen. In politics or in business or in any of these social sciences. It may be called social sciences, but when it comes to the reality of life, for action and reaction could be totally different. You may act something in agro and you may do the same thing in pesco, could be different reactions. But when you follow the physical laws of Newton and thermodynamics and Edison's, the laws of physics are always same whether you are here or whether you are in Greenland. But the laws of science, social sciences, or political science, or business sciences is again an art. And when it comes to art, it is your experience and your knowledge that really counts. You could be, a person could be a double PhD or a totally illiterate. The science is the same for him, that everything that goes up will come down. You don't have to be a PhD to know this thing, that anything that goes up has to come down. But knowledge for running a business, a concern, a planning, a government, it requires knowledge. Because you have to immediately put a number of things in your mind to bring that thing happen successfully. The point is not to happen it, but the point is to happen it successfully. 30,000 barrels. It took us 4 years to go from 30,000 barrels to 50,000 barrels, almost 54,000 barrels, almost doubling it in 4 years. Why? Because the energy managers came. We did deals with the army. We did deals with the Frontier Corps. We went to the public sector. We brought CUFPAC, and we are bringing another big companies. We brought Halliburton. So what could not happen by certain public sector works for the last 70 years, from 1947 up to 2013, happened almost the same thing in 4 years. But when you take managers, maybe what we did in 4 years, you'll be able to do in 2 years. Maybe in 1 year. Maybe half a year. So that's the kind of things energy managers will bring to this province and to this nation. इसमें से primarily there are two buzzwords. One is high growth and the other is good governance. Next.
So change management
is that if you see, if there's water, in a field or something, if it's stagnant, then it becomes really rotten bad. A company, there's no change management. If the company is not changing with the passage of time and not going to the needs of the market, the company will vanish. So the company needs a change management. There's always, the top management is thinking of a change of the wrapper of a product, change of service to the consumers, change in the market size, change in the way they do the service. Sometimes they even change the bill, the electric bill you get, they change the shape of it so that you feel there's a change. Because a change will always bring better thoughts. And a thing that's stagnated is, if you see, if like a lecture, if it's like one tone, it becomes boring. You start feeling sleepy and all that. But if there's a change going on, then you're always awake. Question answers and discussions and all that. Similarly, a company or a government or institution or organization has to have a change management. There is a whole courses and a whole discussion on change management, that the change always is a human psyche, that the change always brings new ideas, new way of working. The old ways, the companies that have stuck with their old ways, they eventually vanish. And the company that does the change management has a good chance of surviving even the hardest times. So that's the change management.
It also includes hiring and firing.
Yes, it's hiring and firing new people. Nowadays, those days are gone that you enter as assistant director or section officer or research officer or whatever, and you are there for 40 years and you retire. Now, people are like in my company, everybody's on a contract. I'm on a contract. My GM, everybody's on a contract. 1 month notice, masalam. That's it. The day a person is of no utility, there's no mercy. कि भाई ये क्या करेगा, job नहीं है, what will he happen? No, because you cannot afford in this times of high competition and tough economic situations that you can carry a load of people because even if you don't need them. But the old companies like OGDC, like WAPDA, they are still reeling with problems. They have issues. SNGPL, people who are hired on a lifetime contract, they are burdened. They don't work, and still people have to keep them because the contract, the law says that you have to keep them. If they are good, bad, ugly, whatever, if they are not working, you have to keep them. But even in the public sector now, the new public sector coming in Punjab here or Sindh, it's a 1 month notice, even the public sector. So that's very important from the human resource. And the managers, the top level, the CEO and the chairman would like to keep a person who is good, who is hardworking, who produces, who delivers, that wants to keep him. He would not give him a 1 month notice. But people who are lethargic and who are not working are given 1 month notice, and that's it. Acha. Now we come to the first lecture. So we are going to go a little bit of organization. Organization means how to organize things. In any organization, there are rules, policies, and the way of work. That you have to come at 8:30. That's an organization. You have to have clean clothes, and you have to attend meetings, and you have to deliver something. Excuse me. Sarko is strategize. How to make a strategy. And the strategy is that you don't make strategy for time past. You make a strategy for the future. And you can have a short-term strategy, mid-term strategy, a long-term strategy, prospective strategy. You have made a strategy for your life to get educated. That's why you're sitting here. And you have chose to go to the technical side and not become a medical doctor or an English teacher. These are all these are strategies of your life. Similar strategy for a company, strategy for an organization, strategy for a government. And then no point having a haphazard strategy. You have to streamline your strategy. You have to strategize things that you can get with very less effort, no effort, with more effort, with much more effort, Like anything that you do, when you're doing an exam, there are 10 questions, you strategize yourself that which question I'm going to do first. So this is, it's no big science that you don't have to be, Einstein to learn about the basic concepts of strategy or organization or management. You know all these things. You have been in this world for 20 years, so you understand these things. But all you have to do is now take it to a higher level. Don't be afraid. Just have to take it to a higher level, much more organized, much higher management, much more vision, much more bigger strategies. That what is happening in Singapore? Today morning happened in Singapore. The prices of oil have gone up. I'm here in Peshawar trying to sell this oil. What will? Actually, tomorrow our Chief Minister is meeting the Prime Minister, and we have been working for the last 4 years to take over SNGPL, the local gas company. So there's so much of obviously push and pull going on. So we had to prepare a very 4-line brief because we have gone through a number of things about the assets and what assets we will take, what we will not take, what is the modality, the pricing, the loss to KPS-NGPL, and who will be the directors, who will be CEO, and all those things. So tomorrow CM has this one meeting with the Prime Minister that because CM, there's no point giving him 10 pages. All he needs is 4 or 5 lines. He's pretty smart. He understands it, and he does a very good argument with the Prime Minister and the Federal Minister of Finance, so that tomorrow, inshallah, the fate of SNGPL will be discussed, and it will be divided into 2: KP SNGPL and Punjab SNGPL, so that the provinces and Sindh and Balochistan, so that the provinces can control their own destiny. Because today, if you want a meter, I don't know how many people have tried to get gas meter. It's like running around and running around and running around, then again running around. You cannot really get it because the file goes to Lahore, Lahore to Islamabad, Islamabad to Lahore, and then comes back here. 3 years have passed. But now, once the destiny is in Peshawar, then you can catch the general manager, the CEO, the politicians that where's my gas meter?
But you did some out, so within 2 days we will be there.
Yeah, that too. You're right. And there is a lot of kundas, also gas kundas, where people are stealing. So you cannot control it from Lahore. It has to be controlled right from Peshawar. So that's one thing that the Chief Minister is going to discuss with the Prime Minister finally, inshallah. And the other thing is that oil and gas exploration is done from Lahore. The other thing is oil and gas exploration. It is done in Islamabad by the Ministry of Petroleum, and they're very slow. They're not really pushed to get oil and gas from any of the provinces. But when it comes to Peshawar, then we have to show and deliver to the people to get the votes. Assalamu alaikum. आपके पास है sector? We've been trying to bring it within the province. Or similarly, hydro projects and power projects also, instead of NEPRA deciding in Islamabad, and they could care less what happens, and WAPDA. So that also trying to bring it to KP so that the decisions are made here, and me can catch a politician if he's not able to deliver it, you can vote him out. Because you cannot vote the federal government out because you are a minority. We have only 14% of the votes. So, but if it has happened here, then you can actually dictate to the politicians that you want power plants, you want gas to use yourself, you want jobs and so and so forth. So that's what's going on. So that's why it's.
So what will be its name then? SNGPL?
Well, Balochistan said that we should keep SWI because SWI kept Pakistan going for the last 60 years or so. So we may keep KP SNGPL.
Sir, इस word का sir क्या माना sir वो oil exploration का
कैसे?
Sir वो word में sir कोई exploration वगैरह का sir minister कह रहा था
नहीं वो तो रिफाइनरी का कह रहा था, रिफाइनरी कुशालगढ़ खैबर रिफाइनरी।
उसका सर क्या माना?
जी मैं एक्सप्लोरेशन की बात ये करता कि इवन एक्सप्लोरेशन license and everything issued by OGRA and DG, Ministry of Petroleum. So we want to bring those powers to the provincial government also, so that oil and gas exploration, licensing, and monitoring the oil and gas exploration is done by the province instead of the federal government. And that's where the 18th Amendment took place in 2010 to devolve education, health, as well as oil and gas and power. So we need to, we are almost at the turn of the history where the 18th Amendment has been made and we are creating managers to handle these big projects. If we have to build Munda project and these big hydro projects over 30,000 megawatts, then of course we need something like 60 CEOs and 60 general managers and thousands of these workers to work on these megawatts. Similarly, oil and gas. Unfortunately, sometimes the government thinks very miser. The oil and gas sector is bringing 30 billion rupees to the province. So they should have a very large directorate in the Ministry of Petroleum, in the Ministry of Energy, in the provincial government, because they are 30 billion rupees. This is the largest amount of money being brought. You don't get money from PST, provincial states like GST, but the maximum is for. So they should have maybe like 40 people working in the ministry, but they have like 7-8 people. So these are the things which needs to bring as change management, that they should not be miser. They should say, okay, if we have spent so much, 7 people can bring 30 billion. So if we double these people to 14 people, maybe we'll get 60 billion. Because things are delayed even at the provincial level. So this is what's going on, has been going on since 2014, where we want to bring all the powers from the federal government to the provincial government so that things can go faster. That requires, we developed the KP petroleum policy, the hydro policy. Today CMs have approved KP transmission line for policy, because you have to, suppose you want to build a transmission line, you have to have a policy that what will be the cost, the tariff, the rate on equity and all those things. So then we will go through the strategy, strategic planning and strategic organization management, some of the sciences, what did the scientists do and how these things were streamlined in strategic management. That when you want to manage an organization with a strategy, what kind of things you have to, I don't know, how many of you know how to play chess and bridge? Not flash, but bridge. You want to play even badminton, you have to have a strategy. That what are the weak points of the other person? If he cannot go backhand, then you always throw backhand, so that he's always stuck up with a backhand. And if his front hand is very powerful, you never send it there, because similarly, if a batsman, he is afraid of spin, there's no point bringing a fast bowler. You bring a spinner. Similarly, if he's afraid of the bouncers, then you bring up Shoaib Akhtar to make bounces. That's why the big captains like Kardar and Imran Khan and Kapil Dev and all these, they strategize. Half the game is definitely you require the skills, but only skill is not enough, and half the battle is won because of your strategy. How do you strategize your war, your company? So strategy, that's why we put as 501, because one of the most important thing is your strategy. How do you win the game? It must flash in your life that if you are in college playing cricket or football or hockey, definitely you move with a strategy. You don't just go and stand there with a bat. You have thought that what kind of bowler this is and what kind of field placing is it. Field placing is also a strategy. So we'll discuss these things. Then SWOT analysis, understanding the characteristics of the operation of organization important. Do you think that if to run a hospital, to become a CEO of a hospital, you should be a doctor? You don't have to be a doctor. You have to be a manager. To run KPOGCL, you don't have to be a geologist, geophysicist, or an engineer. You could be a law graduate or finance or anything, but you should have the managerial skills. And the managerial skills, besides strategy and tactics, also brings the risk that you can take, the decisions you can make, the flow charts that you can make, the easy working that you can create, and of course, then, with the passions of market, you go for the change management. Even big companies who have not changed, like Ford Motor Company, you must have read about Ford Motor Company, you know Ford Motor Company. The failure of Ford Motor Company was the second largest company in the world, but compared to General Motors, they didn't have any change management. They thought that what they are doing is the best. Mr. Henry Ford, because he was the inventor of motor car, so he knew that I'm the inventor, so I know what is the best for a company, for a motor car company. So when Henry Ford and his son Henry Ford II, they were the chief executive and chairman, they didn't want any change management. Somebody wanted to change the model, they resisted that. Somebody wanted to change the size of the car, because as soon as Yom Kippur war in the Middle East happened, and there was a war between Israel and the Arabs put the price from $3 to $7 or something per barrel. The whole world economy is shattered, and people went from big Cadillacs and big Chevys and Impalas to small cars. But Ford did not come to that address, that strategy. Toyota went to small cars. Mazda, Hondas, many other cars, the Maseratis, the Mercedes-Benz, everyone went to a small car because people wanted small cars, much more efficient cars. At that time, engine efficiency like today was not the primary focus of the manufacturers, but reducing the weight of the vehicle. To reduce the weight of the vehicle, you will get much better mileage. But Ford did not do it because he thought that he is the inventor and he knows, and he went bankrupt because nobody was buying Ford. The second largest company in the world, not America, in the world, suddenly was declaring bankruptcy. So this one person, Lee Iacocca, he was thrown out of Chrysler, which was the third largest company of the world, again a motor company. There's General Motors, number one, Ford, and Chrysler. So this Chrysler guy, Lee Iacocca, he was the president, and he was thrown out. So he then comes in and strategizes a change management. By change management, you do not mean that you get rid of the people and bring in people. He changed the people. He said that this is the new way of thinking. You see the market trend. If the market trend is coming like this, you are always ahead of it. If there is a big traffic jam, you want to avoid the traffic jam. You want to strategize and you want to Sadr instead of going through Khyber Road. So he strategized, and then the companies flourished. So that's what, as a manager, as a CEO, as a director, as a chairman, what you need to do, you need to be ahead of time. Whatever time is going on, you should be well read, as I said before, you should be well read at what is happening in the market, and you beat the market. What Anglo does, why they are one of the most successful companies in Pakistan, they are actually the leaders in Pakistan, is that they are always ahead of time. They have strategic meetings, they strategize, they have people who are always thinking of the future. From fertilizer, they move to the power plant. No correlation. No, I mean, the guy who was running a fertilizer, he became CEO of a power plant. And he came to me. I was MD OGDCL. We had OGDCL was flaring gas, 25 million cubic feet of gas. So I knew people at Angro, so I talked to them that you want to build a power plant. He talked to his chairman, and they came, and eventually this person who was making fertilizer was made CEO of Kadirpur power plant by Angro, and they went from, it's not necessarily that if you are a fertilizer, you can only make a garden or vegetables. No, you can go to any spectrum. That's the change management, and that's the strategize. So they strategize at the top level when Asad Umar was their CEO, and they moved from urea fertilizer to the power plant. And from power plant, they went to all-per milk, food chain. And for almost 7-8 years, they had a loss in all-per. Eventually, they made a profit out of all-per. So that's how you strategize, because even as a fertilizer expert, he knew, or they knew, or their board knew what is the benefit of a power plant. That's why they made a power plant. So this is what, giving just an example, that you have to keep your eyes open to the avenues that are available for the company. Because yes, your job is to run that company, is also to sustain that company, and also to make money for the shareholders. Next. The previous paragraph has now been put into bullet points. So it's easier to remember the bullet points. Same thing as you saw there has been, so you know that there are 11 players in your game. So in the game that you are going to play as a strategist is that these 11 things you need to remember. Because it's easier to remember that there must be 11. So if you think of strategies and there are 10, then you know that you've missed something. Because you always know that in a football game or a cricket game there are 10 players. We just discussed it, so in the next one. As I said, the same strategy which if Atak refinery applies, they may fail. And Agro applies, it makes it successful. So it's not a science, it's an art. So you need to be vigilant of that point in time, that case study that is in front of you. That what will happen if I do this thing in OGDCL, what will happen to OGDCL? And the same thing that if you are in Pakistan Steel Mill, what will happen? So these are very important things as a decision maker, because at the top level as manager, your job is not to work but to decide. Because there are people working at the bottom, doing analysis and calculus and all, spreadsheets and Excel sheets and all of they are doing it because they bring to you 4 scenarios that okay, what to decide, how to decide, and then you are the one who is deciding. So you know the knowledge, and there is so much thesis behind it, so much feasibility. You don't have to go through the feasibility. You say where is the executive summary? Where are my 5-6 lines? Where are my 5-6 bullet points where I can decide? Because at a high level, especially when we are talking of mega projects in KP as far as oil and gas and hydro is concerned, there are hundreds of decisions coming every time to you. And somebody asked the chairman of Chevron, one of the largest gas companies, that daily you are receiving hundreds of emails and hundreds of letters. How do you decide which is good, bad? They say it's the gut feeling. Sometimes you have this inside feeling. You may not know exactly what is inside, but you have to decide, and you have this gut feeling that, these clothes are good for me. There are hundreds of other clothes, especially for the ladies. They go and they take the whole shop down. This whole shop, bechara, was sorry. They say, ye pasand nahi, what? And we go and white shalwar kameez, and then we are off. Because we have strategized, and they have strategized their own ways. So you have a stack of information. You cannot decide. So there is also a managerial feeling of gut feeling that what to do in this kind of situation. Sometimes also fail. That's part of life. But the point is how to fall down and get up and move on. We'll discuss what is organization, and these things we will discuss, but I just thought that it's in your mind that in this course, at least once you graduate out of this course, out of this six things, you have a good understanding of 3 or 4 things with your own reading and with discussion in the class. Next. Very basic, need not go into details, that organization is a bunch of people who get together, bunch of entities that get together makes an organization. But the most important thing is goals. How do you all work towards the same goal? Working in KPOGCL, if I am saying that I want to go and drill in Lucky, my manager is saying I'm going to go and drill in Charsada, there's a fiasco going on. It cannot happen like this. So a collective goal in organization, so that if somebody is pushing something, if 11 people are trying to push something this side and 2 people are trying to push this side, obviously the result is that the thing will go nowhere. But if all 11 of people are pushing on one side, there's a great chance of success. So similarly, in an organization which is a social unit of people, we at KPOGCL, all of us say in the morning, Assalamu alaikum, how are you, this and that. We are all socializing it well early in the morning, and we work as a team because we know that we have to move towards a single goal to produce oil and gas. If somebody says that I'm here to produce textiles, definitely he doesn't belong to KPOGCL. So you need to induct those people who are who are of that skill and who are of that mentality also. So that's how you are going to be successful in your organization. So organization is a group of people plus some collective goals. And when collective goals comes the systems, then you have to devise a system that is common to all. It cannot happen that I come at 11 o'clock in the morning and I ask everybody else to come at 8 o'clock. I think that is not going to work in a system. The thing comes from the top. The pyramid is always from the top. That what people see at the top is going to come down. Nobody sees at the bottom. Everybody is always, for your career, for your money matters, for your life, you're always looking for higher. You don't want to go from today you have BSc mechanical engineer, tomorrow you say, let me go take admission in metric. You will never do that. It's not human to go back to the metric or 8th class. Nobody has disallowed you to reappear in metric. You can always reappear in metric, but no human being will do that. Similarly, the systems have to go up. The systems have to move up. That's what. So what we get is an organization is a bunch of people or entities with collective goals and with a system. If you don't have a system, even a system means something which, this is a system that the classroom is like this and all that. But maybe after the new Vice Chancellor will come and say, it's very boring. This is not the way to educate. Let's sit like a roundtable conference. We start educating ourselves. That's a change management. That's a new system. That's also a system. That's how efficiency will work. Next. Now this is a little going into the corporate sector, whether in the public sector or the private sector, you have to work under certain rules and regulations of the country. You cannot say that I'm going to make a big company but not pay taxes. You cannot do that. Similarly, you have to register yourself with Security and Exchange Commission. That's the law. That to work in Pakistan, you have to get license. To drive a car, you have to have a license. To have a gun, you have to have a license. Similarly, to run a company, to make a company, you have to know that how to make a company. What is the best way to make a company? Like we made a company as a profitable company, that KPOGCL will make profit. We are a government company, 100% owned by the government, but we will make profit. If I'm going to give service to somebody, if I'm taking oil and gas, I will make profit. But Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, ASMEC, the KPOGCL, which make economic zones. Economic zones management and development company, they decided to become a non-profit organization. So we are registered under section 15, they are registered under 42. So we can make profit, they cannot make profit. Whatever they have, they make some money, they have to spend it on the new economic zones. Now we will also make profit and we will also plow down to bring more oil and gas. But our strategy and frame of mind is different from the frame of mind and the system and the collective thinking of ASMEC. PEDO is converting itself into a corporate body, but they are also going under section 15, which make a profitable company. If they make a profit, what happens? It goes back into KP government. We make profit, what happens? It goes back into the provincial government. So in both the cases, in our case and ASMEC case, although the end result is the same, that we are not shareholders, the employees get as much salary as given by the board, and in ASMEC also, but the frame of mind is different. And we thought at the time of incorporation that we should be a profit-oriented company. Why? Because our philosophy is that profit generates more and more enthusiasm that we are making profits. And out of profits, the employees will get bonuses. And tomorrow when we make these profits, we can also go to Karachi Stock Exchange and sell our shares. And then we go to London Stock Exchange, sell our shares to bring more and more money to KP. Because more and more technology and money comes to KP, more oil and gas will be found with the passage of time. So this is the reason how we strategize whether we are under section 15 or under section 42. You can be owner yourself, just one person, you can do it. You can have a limited liability company that, because way back 100 years ago when people were going bankrupt, they were being sued by the lenders. If I borrow money, so my liability is up to my capital. If I lose, I can lose all my capital equity, that's all. Nobody can come and take my house. But as a sole proprietor, people can come, if there's a loss and you owe somebody money, they can come and take your house and cars. So that's the difference between the two, the sole proprietorship and limited liability. My liability is limited by my balance sheet, not my house. As a director, as an owner, as a person who runs it, there is a limited liability. And then the corporation, the government makes corporations where it is run in a different manner, where the government starts making a corporation where it's solely owned by the government, no stock exchange, no nothing. Although at present there are a number of corporations which were made as, like OGDC was a corporation, but eventually it became a public limited company. So Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation. So there are a number of corporations, but the real corporation is the government is the owner and it is working in the public interest. That is the. There are a number of offshoots of this thing, but we'll come to that, and we will inshallah go through the SCCP Act and the Companies Act also, so that you understand how a company is made and how a company is run. Because under the SCCP there are rules, regulations about taxation, about a company like a KPOGCL is open to public for any information. Atak Refinery is not. Atak Refinery is open to only the shareholders, the 5,000-6,000 shareholders of the private company. Only they can come and look at the books. The general public cannot. So these are certain administrative things that you need also to know. Next. A sole proprietorship is when a person does not form a business entity and they operate the business as themselves. Like, he's only sole, or 2-3 people are doing it. A partnership, which is registered with the registrar's office, and then he runs this business. Like, a number of shops are sole proprietorships. He pays taxes and everything. He's registered, but registered not with SECP, but with the registrar's office. So that's because, but under sole proprietorship, such large businesses that we are talking about, hydro and oil and gas, they cannot run. They can be only run with a G.
SMEs.
Yeah, SMEs can be there, but small and medium enterprises can be there. But what we are talking here is big projects. 5 billion, 6 billion, 16 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion, 12 billion dollars for hydro. So $12 billion is almost, is how much? How many trillion rupees? 1.2 trillion rupees. That's quite a chunk of money that we are 3 times the budget of KP. So for that, the sole proprietorship mechanism cannot work. Next. Again, I think we discussed this. This is it is a legal entity through SECP, where it could be, again, a small company can also be a limited liability company. But what we are discussing is a large company, but a limited liability. And that's where your frame of mind, and because the shareholders, which is the government of KP now, in KPOGCL, or the government of Pakistan in OGDCL or SNGPL, and now government of KP into SNGPL, the liabilities are limited. If somebody wants to take us to court, the court will only decide penalties according to our balance sheet, not more than that. Next. As I said, a corporation is mostly a public sector company where it is fully, like Pakistan Steel Mill is 100% owned and run like the government runs it. Not like KPGCL, we are sort of a private. Our shareholders, our directors are half government and half private. But many of the corporations have 100% government officers running it. So that's the sort of, although 40 years ago, 20 years ago, the corporations at that time were also run by private sector appointed by the government. But later on, these were run by the corporations. So now the corporations are sort of phasing out, and LLCs are coming in. Limited liability companies are coming in. Next. So a break here in 5 minutes. Yeah, let's do some a few administrative things. As you know that you have to do a project, which means you have to write a few pages, which could be 60, 70 pages or 40 pages. One of the subject could be, because you have to strategize, you have to, it's very difficult to really differentiate between one subject and the other subject. The whole subject is energy management, so there could be a number of things which are overlapping. You have to live with that overlapping. So I believe that you can group yourself, 2, 3, 4 people maximum, to develop sort of a strategy. Strategy for example, you can choose something else also. Business strategy for KPGCL, business strategy for PEDO, business strategy for solarization of KP, business strategy or corporate strategy for fast-track development of hydro projects in KP. Then why our hydro projects are so slow? Why our oil and gas is so slow? Why this thing is not happening? So what change you can bring in the way present things are worked so that it becomes your own original paper project. you have to have new ideas. So it will take us, we have still 15 weeks to go, and that is a long time that you can write the statement of the problem. What is the statement of the problem? What are the solutions? What is the best solutions? What are some of the examples that has happened in other countries that have made this a success story of other companies and other organizations and other countries. It could be we are making CM Energy Vision 2025 and also PM's Energy Vision 2025. Both KPOGCL inshallah is making, and also we are part of the 12th five-year plan for Pakistan. I was also chairman of the 10th five-year plan and 11th five-year plan for energy, and now inshallah the 12th five-year plan. So you can also contribute to that. And what do you think? Where should we be? Where should Pakistan be? Where should KP be? Where should Balochistan be in the next 5 years? That will set the stage for the next 25 years. Because when in 2010 we developed the 10th five-year plan, which envisaged bringing LNG into Pakistan and also having 4 terminals. So one terminal is already built, the other is under construction, and in the newspapers there is always some people agreeing with bringing LNG into Pakistan, some are against it. It's a democratic country, so you may say it's good, you may say it's bad. You may say coal is good, you may say coal is bad. So this is all, but the government eventually approved, during the People's Party government of Zardari Sahab, they approved the 10th five-year plan. And then came this government, the 11th five-year plan, and Vision 2025. And now 4 years have passed, so now they want to make the 12th five-year plan. And Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, he is very much interested in 12th five-year plan. And fortunately, I had a discussion with him on a little bit of bigger vision of 12th five-year plan and Vision 2030 for the Prime Minister and 2025 for the Chief Minister. So you can contribute to that if you want. There could be KP transmission line policy. That could be another topic. But I will appreciate, that you make these projects related to energy, obviously, and also to what is happening in the next 5 to 10 years. So that paper can be a good passport for you to get a higher job. Because once you go for higher interviews, they will ask you, what have you written? What have you done? What have you thought? So when you produce this paper, 30, 40, 50, 60 pages, which gives us a strategy of an energy company in Pakistan, LKP, or how to build these hydropower plants in remote areas of Chitral and Swat and Dir, how to evacuate power, what is the strategy, what should be the tariff, what should be the rules, regulations, and what should be the project management. That definitely will help you secure good positions in a much quicker way.
The transmission line means that now they are overhead and next that will be in underneath.
No, because all these big transmission lines are overhead. Underground are always in the city, because when you have a smaller distances, you can put a cable. But if you have a distance from Chitral to Peshawar, which is 300 kilometers, you got to bring a cable. It has to be a 500 kV, 500 kilovolt power lines, or 220 kV, or 765 kV, or 1200 kV. So that's what I'm saying, because KP has hydro power plants policy, yes, but it doesn't have a transmission policy. Then if I want to put a transmission line by the private sector or by the government sector, what are the policies? What are the incentives? What are the rules, regulations? So that is missing. So today the CMs have decided that we should go ahead with a transmission policy. So you can contribute to that. We can also include some of you who are interested with the concerned departments, that you will work with them as an intern, as a fellowship, so that you can contribute to those change of history. because when back in 1990, when IPPs, when hub power was not there, so people who got involved, they were there from ab initio, from initially they knew it, what is happening, what is power purchase agreement, implementation agreement, and all these things. So they made history, and today we have at least half of our powers is coming from the IPPs, means the private sector. So that is a policy making. Similarly, you can have a policy making of the transmission line. Maybe you can have a transmission or some other policy, solarization or wind, or you can think of yourself. So I trust with you that next time when you come, you would have, on Friday when we meet in the afternoon, you would have had made certain groups and selected maybe 2-3 topics out of energy strategic management, that how will you either change or develop new strategic model to run a successful company, energy company. Understood? क्या जी बताइए.
We have to make a plan and make strategy which was happening and what we can contribute strategically in energy sectors. We have to develop a strategy for the
Right, this is what I believe. जी आपके ख्याल में
सर हम नई स्ट्रेटजी मतलब जीरो से क्यों स्टार्ट करें? अगर पुरानी कोई स्ट्रेटजी वो हम स्टडी करें, उसके फ्लॉज या प्रोज एंड कॉन्स हम पढ़ें और उसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट करें तो वो टाइम कंज्यूमिंग नहीं होगा. और हम मतलब अभी हमारे पास स्ट्रेटजी का प्लान या कुछ भी आइडिया तो हमारे पास नॉलेज नहीं है. तो अगर हमें स्ट्रेटजी वो हमें दी जाए और उसको स्टडी करने का टाइम दिया जाए और उसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट, तो वो अच्छा होगा.
ठीक. So this is what we mean कि आप इस प्रोजेक्ट को कंप्लीट, because that will be good marking eventually. मार्क्स तो दिए जाने हैं, ये दस्तूर है यहाँ का कि मार्क्स दिए जाते हैं. तो the better projects you have, the better that you have to present it and defend it. आपको डिफेंड भी करना पड़ेगा कि why do you think कि this strategy is better. Somebody else will say, yeah, strategy better. This is a better strategy. So we will have a class discussion. We'll spend those 3 hours where people will make a presentation here and also defend. This is one thing. The other thing is that we discussed last time that what you need to do is a case study, that you have to have a case study. For the case study, again, by case study we means that a company has a problem. A company could be running very successful, but suppose the company is giving a dividend of 50%, they say, this is less, I should give 100% dividend. So for them, 50% is not enough, they want to move to 100%. Company that is giving 100%, they want to move to 200%. In Pakistan oil field, when I was on the board of directors, so at that time they were giving about 50% dividend. So we thought that 50% is too little, let's move to 100. From 100 we moved to 150, now it's up to 350% of profit they are giving. So if you see, Pakistan oil field is one of the largest dividend players, because you want to put in the share market. Why? To earn money, you invest to make money. So that's how. So you have to have a strategy, and then how did you make it? So we can frame certain questions in the class, jointly or separately as a homework, and then I would like you to visit Karachi and meet, the chief executive of Angro Coal. A massive project is going on there, and I will try to arrange that, not all, because I want some to go for hydro projects in Swat, Chitral, Reshun, these areas. I want some of you to go to Karachi to see the coal mining and the coal power plant being built in Thar. And then I want some of you to go to these oil fields in Bakori, Manzalai, Hangu, and Orakzai and Tira and all these places. So it could be 5-6 groups. How many? We are 20 people here or 25? 25. So 5 groups we can make, or 6 groups we can make, so that you can meet Mr. Shamsuddin Sheikh the chief executive of Anglo Power, Anglo Coal, and you can meet, Lieutenant General Afzal, who is the Director General of FWO. They are making 3 big power plants in Chitral. It's very difficult. Going to Chitral as a tourist is difficult, and you want to take a power plant which is bigger than this room. It's not easy. How to make this travel, because each turbine is humongous. It is so large that if you see on the Google, they have this power plant in Gudu. Gudu is not far from Karachi. So they had to put the turbine on a truck which came from England. It had 110 wheels. 110 wheels, and there were 3 steerings. So there were 3 steerings moving, and there was 110 wheels that went from Karachi to Thatta to Kotri and then to Gudu. And sometimes you will see a transmission line, a telephone line is very low, so they have to move them up. And then there was not enough space between the bridge and then and the road. So what they have to do, they cannot remove the bridge, so they have to cut the road to lower it so that the turbine can pass. And these are small turbines. Now 180, 120 megawatt turbines of hydro going to Chitral is itself a miracle. So you need to talk to them. You go through case studies, how the case studies are done in Harvard and how the case studies are done in MIT. There are case studies in LUMS. The management schools all over America and England and LUMS and IBA, they all depend on case studies. You go and talk to the CEO and see how did he make it a successful venture. It's reading books is also okay, newspapers also okay, magazines also okay, this class is okay, but one-to-one when you're sitting with the CEO for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, then you are directly questioning to him and getting an answer. He is talking to you, he is giving his own experience. Then you keep on writing those case studies and you develop a paper out of it. 20 pages, 25 pages, and then that becomes a case study. Then it becomes a book. Then it becomes part of the curriculum in other areas. So because today, here we'll be borrowing case studies out of Harvard and University of Michigan and LUMS and IBA and Asian Institute of Technology, because we don't have a base. But once you have a base here, the coming generations will be taking advantage of it. And what happened in 2016, how did that company flourish so much? How did this company was so successful, and why this company went down? And this is all part of our course only, but also part of your growing. So that's another thing that you need to have a group to make a project, and also to visit these Karachi and Lahore and Makori and Chitral and Islamabad and Pindi, to talk to these people who are doing mega projects. Lieutenant General Afzal, he has a portfolio of almost 600-700 billion rupees. He's controlling it. There's a pipeline from Gawada to Khunjrat, 48-inch pipeline for crude oil. There are roads, there are bridges, there is Korakam Highway, there is corridor, Western Corridor for CPEC, Central Corridor, Eastern Corridor for CPEC. So that's another big project. So he's handling it. He has a board. He has a few major generals working for him, director generals working for him, engineers working for him, MBAs working for him. So he has a group of people. So he's managing all this. I want you to interview him. How does he decide these things? How does he absorb these things? How does he sleep? How does he have time for his family? Because he's also a human being like us. And he's here having a portfolio of 500-600 billion rupees. And how is Angro CEO being the largest conglomerate in Pakistan, making all these successful things. Agro food, they made this all-per milk that you must have seen, and they were bankrupt, losses. Eventually they made a profit. The day they made a profit, a company came from Holland and bought it at $450 million. So the profit was made, and also he made $450 million. Similarly, there are many ventures in Pakistan who need help. As I talked in the beginning, Japan Power is losing money. Why? Somebody has to go and study it. And then there is another company in Karachi making loss. But why go that far? We can ourselves, at least 3 groups, can study KPOGCL, PEDO, and our oil and gas sector and the hydro sector. I think that will be a good way to start this course as well as this subject. So this is what you need to think. I think you probably know each other now, so you can sort of group yourself that what is the interest, or maybe next time we can list down the interest of each of you and see how it commingles. I think that would be a good way to form teams instead of you just talking to each other and not. So we can list on what do you really want in your life. Who is for oil and gas? Who is for hydro? Who is for solar? Who is for energy conservation? And there's another thing of a massive, what we call electrical inspectorate. Under 1910 Act of Electricity, there's an electric inspectorate. Like an explosive inspectorate, there's a boiler inspector. You have heard of boiler inspector, that you cannot run a boiler unless it is tested and approved, certified by an inspector, food inspector. You have heard of the food inspector, that you cannot run a canteen or a hotel unless a food inspector comes in. Similarly, you cannot run a power plant unless an electrical inspector has come and seen it. You cannot run a generator outside, the one that's outside, unless an inspector has checked it. I don't think so this inspector has checked it. So there is a whole new subject after 1910, and this is 2017, after 117 years, we woke up. अच्छा, ऐसा भी होता है? अच्छा, वो act भी था, British wrote this act, and just last few months we have been going through this act and trying to put our act together. Okay, bhai, what this inspectorate is supposed to do? He's supposed to help consumer. He's supposed to go for safety of the generators. He's supposed to collect revenue for the government. That wherever there's a generator outside, they have to pay a duty to the government of KP. So there's hiring going on, and the inspectorate was only in Peshawar. So now the CM has allowed same inspectorates offices to be opened in all the districts. There are 14 districts in KP, in all the district headquarters, so that people can go with their grievances against WAPDA, against PESCO, that my bill is higher and this and that, and my meter is running higher. Those people were there for 117 years, nobody knew it. Act was there. So these are the opportunities. And then another thing is energy service companies, ESCO, 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 where USAID and SAMIDA, they're helping youngsters like you develop energy services companies. Now what is that? KP is putting 356 power plants, hydropower plants all over KP, right? As a first phase. And second phase is 655. So out of 356, 241 are already complete and working. And they provide electricity at 4 rupees, no load shedding at 4 rupees a unit. And you pay about 13, 14 rupees a unit here. And that is 4 rupees. So that's one thing, it's good for the community. That community is getting at a much cheaper rate, and no electricity shortage is there, and no load shedding is there. And you know, they have their own mechanics that, okay, your house has 1 air conditioner and 5 bulbs and 1 fan, you have to pay this much. There's a meter running. And people are paying 4 rupees. And out of 4 rupees, PEDO keeps 30% of that. for retrofitting, that after 5 years when they have to do a major retrofitting, there's enough money. But those people, they have hired a mechanic and an electrical mechanic, mechanic, and also lubricant oil and this and that they are doing by themselves. Community has got together, and there's no fighting going on for the last 2 months that they are there. So the community can jointly work together and take power. Now, what is ESCO? Now, the government is developing these ESCOs for entrepreneurs like you. You go and you say, okay, these are 20 power plants. You tell them, give me the take-up. I will fix it. I will run it for you. You don't have to worry. And I will bring the loop. I will bring the engineer to test it. I will do the dynamic balancing for everything for you. And you pay me 50 paisa per unit generated. So you have your own infrastructure and you do the service for them. The government has decided to build these 1,000 small units in a number of, in Chitral and Swat and Haripur and all that. You say, okay, government, you go ahead and build this 1,000. You go to the community, you say, there's water flowing from here. I'll build a 1 megawatt plant for you. I will run it and I'll sell this power for 4 rupees to you. They will say, great, do it for us. You go and borrow money from the bank and from these Samida institutions, and you build that power plant, you pay back the loan, you pay back the principal, you have your own profit, you make a salary, and eventually you are also running these 5, 6, 7 power plants. That's another way. That's another project that you can write about. That what is the feasibility, how to create an ESCO, a successful ESCO, what should be strategy for this ESCO. Of course, these are not the large, huge, 200, 300 megawatt power plants we're talking, but it's still a business. Still, it could grow into a very large business in states and Norway and Sweden. There are hundreds of these companies run by youngsters like you who are out of college. They don't want to look for a job. They say, job, you're not going to job. Here is my entrepreneurship, and they are providing this service to these small hydro plants, runoff river, dams, whatever, So that's again, for oil and gas, we have seepages in KP.
But it is permissible in Pakistan, is it?
What's that?
Permissible in
Yes,
Pakistan?
it's permissible in Pakistan, yes.
Because there may be some license for...
Yes, you have to get a license, you have to incorporate a company, you have to pay tax, you have to have a national tax number, national sales tax number, provisional sales tax number. Those things you have to do. It's all in the computer, and there's no charge for that. But you have to hire people. You're managers. You're not supposed to take a pana and work on it. You hire some mechanics, fresh engineers, and you run that business.
सर SMETA के साथ अपनी वो होती है फंडिंग वगैरह या वो सिर्फ रिकमेंड कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, वो I think they don't give the funding. What they do is they recommend you and they help you in a number of ways with the government. But small business, the banks have it. The banks also gives some seed money if it's a viable project. They do. So, but we can discuss this and we can talk to the banks about this thing that, how would you entertain a small ESCO, energy services company, to flourish? And for a new person who cannot give anything as a mortgage, suppose you go, you say, okay, I want 5 lakh rupees as a working capital and 10 lakh rupees to buy a car and to buy a Suzuki and to buy spanners and this and that. So I need 15 lakh rupees. He say, okay, give me your house papers and all that. So we don't want that. So what we will do, we will investigate with Al Falah and Habib Bank and all that how can you support the young entrepreneurs.
By interest-free loans, etc.
Yes, interest-free loans, and we will also, maybe we can make a paper for the CM that, okay, because he has given these almost for these 1,000 units that are being all over the place. These are funded by the government, something like 4 or 5 billion rupees. So if you can give 4 or 5 billion rupees for to build these hydro plants all over KP and also solar. The government is solarizing 8,000 mosques and about 400 BHUs and about 4,000 schools. So if you can do that, you can spend these 20 billion rupees, you can give 50 crore rupees to the entrepreneurs also. Free loan. Now that also we will make a paper if people like it, and a group can develop a summary to the CM to get these things going. So these are the two things with a project that you feel is of interest to you and your future career, and the other is a case study where you will go and interview 3, 4 days, 5 days, a month, whatever, or 2 times, 3 times over this 2 years to certain chairmen and CEOs and Mr. Mancha, and that how did they work so hard, and what was their strategy that they are successful businessmen. So that's also to have a good handle on these things. Because strategy eventually. Okay, coming back to this strategic management, you see, without a goal and achievement, you cannot even play hockey or football. I haven't seen a football game where there is no goal post. There has to be a goal post. There has to be 3 wickets this side and 3 wickets, or at least 1 wicket on this side, to make it a viable game. Similarly, in a strategic management or a chess player, there has to be certain kind of goals and certain kind of achievements that you have to make. A goal that when we were making the 7th 5-year plan in the Planning Commission back in 1990, there was already certain goals for 2005. So we are sitting in 1990 and making goals for 2005. At that time, a number of bureaucrats were saying that who worries about 2005? It's 15 years. We'll be retired. We'll be gone. But then the nation passed 2005 and 2015. Now 2017. When you will be in the job market, it will be 2025. Inshallah, Pakistan will keep on moving. So we need to keep on revising these achievements, these goals and achievements. At that time, whatever achievements were there, at that time it was in the plan that there will be load shedding. So we need to put more power plants. By 2005 there will be load shedding. So we need to bring a number of power plants. But what happened in 1997, 98, there were power plants coming in, but when the martial law came, there was additional power, because there's always a power plant comes, so there's additional power. The supply is here, the demand is always here. The supply is always moving ahead of demand, so that it doesn't go this way, that the demand is higher than the supply. So the supply was always kept higher than the demand, so there was no load shedding. Suddenly when the government changed in 1999, there was a surplus. So they thought that this surplus is waste of money. So they did not build any power plants. Slowly the demand caught up. So the demand was higher and the supply was less. That's why we have this load shedding. But this was already predicted in the 7th 5-year plan, that this will happen. So you need to put, that's why the private sector was asked in Hub Power and Tapal and Sapphire and Capco, and all these people were asked to put the power plants. So these all power plants were reason that as planners, the Planning Commission, if you have heard the name of Mehboob al-Haq and Agent Qazi, they knew that the load shedding is coming. So they wanted, the government didn't have enough money. The public sector money was drying up, not enough money. So they asked the private sector to come and start putting the power plants. And that transpired the Pakistan Power Policy. That transpired the Private Power Infrastructure Board. That transpired